This video will be focused on the Mother Goddess figure. The so-called Mother Goddess figure has taken many forms over the years, but it has always been about worshiping the feminine principle. This is a large part of the reason there are so many single mother homes and why men are so emasculated in our society. Our society has been designed in such a way that people are constantly worshiping the Mother Goddess figure and the feminine principle without even realizing it. The first example of the Mother Goddess that we will discuss is the Egyptian goddess Isis. I'll quickly show the connection between ancient Egypt to our current Babylonian society. Isis was often depicted wearing red or scarlet, and the Egyptians and many other cultures often used milk to represent knowledge. They believed that from the breast of Isis, they could gain knowledge because they believed the breast was magical and that knowledge came from something that they called Heka. There's also a witch named Hecates, which is based off of the Heka. So Heka, or Hecates, is another example of the Mother Goddess figure, and she's a witch. And then you can see the Marvel character Scarlet Witch, which we know Isis wears scarlet. Hecates is a witch. They're both the Mother Goddess figure. So Scarlet Witch also represents the Mother Goddess figure. And this is because many Hollywood directors and executives study in the Babylonian mystery school system. They're all part of the large occult that spreads across the entire world. The Statue of Liberty clearly resembles many Mother Goddess figures like Hecates, Isis, and many others. The torch is illuminated and represents light. The light represents knowledge and enlightenment, very similar to the beliefs that are held in Gnosticism. Some believe that the light is also a representation of Lucifer, who is described as an angel of light in the Bible. The G in Freemasonry represents Gnosticism, and 33rd degree Freemasons like Albert Pike admit that they worship Lucifer and say that Lucifer is the bringer of light. There's also another example of this light in Plato's allegory of the cave, which is supposed to represent the enlightenment to speak of, and it's when you achieve a higher level of thinking than everybody else, and it's a form of Gnosticism, and it's actually pure evil. In ancient Greece and many other old plays, it would be normal for the audience to participate in some form of Mother Goddess worship before the play started. The same can be said today with our movies. Before the movie starts, there's often symbolism on the screen for the whole audience to see. And one very famous example of this is Columbia Pictures, which has a representation of the Mother Goddess figure right before the movie starts, and it looks just like the Statue of Liberty. In old theater, it was normal for men to play the roles of women and dress as strange women, and dress as women on stage. We were probably taught that this was because of the lack of women's rights at the time, but that's not really the case. They did this to represent the Mother Goddess figure on stage because many versions of the Mother Goddess, like Ishtar and Inanna, were androgynous. This means that they're equally male and female. And this is the reason that the transgender movement is pushed so hard today in our society. And many women in movies today are actually not really female. The Catholic Church has made an effort to make people think that the Virgin Mary is another Mother Goddess figure representing Isis and all the other ones. Many people in the truth community have actually fallen for this. And there are people that think Mary never even existed and that she's just another version of Isis and Jesus would be Heru. This is all based off the Babylonian Nimrod and Semiramis with the child Tammuz. This was the original Babylonian Trinity, and Semiramis told people that Tammuz was the reincarnation of Nimrod when Nimrod died. So Tammuz was the sun and the Babylonian false messiah. There's also a cross of Tammuz that was worn by Babylonians. The Mother Goddess figure can also be found in the United States seal. This eagle is also called the double-headed phoenix. Inanna is said to have descended into the underworld for 3 days as a phoenix, and then she rose. The story is a clear inversion of the resurrection of Christ, and Inanna and Ishtar were both referred to as the goddess of war and fertility. You can see that one side of the phoenix has arrows, which represents war, and the other has a plant, which represents fertility. Ishtar is also where we get the name for Easter, and like I said, Inanna, which also is Ishtar, both Mother Goddess, descended for 3 days. So Easter is actually a celebration of that, which is why it's a 3-day celebration which begins on, was it Black Friday or Good Friday? I think it's Good Friday and not Black Friday. That's Thanksgiving. So Easter is not a Christian holiday at all. And the reason that we have the Easter bunny is because bunnies or rabbits have a very high birth rate, and we paint eggs because the eggs represent fertility. And Ishtar and Inanna are both goddesses of fertility. So you can see the clear connection there. Okay, now I'm going to show you a little bit from a book called The Babylonian World. And this book is going to get into a lot more detail about Ishtar, so I can show some references. Chapter 23, Inanna and Ishtar in the Babylonian World. Inanna and Ishtar were the most popular and revered goddesses of ancient Mesopotamia, and it seems like they still are the most popular goddesses of today. So it seems that we might be living in modern-day Babylon. On this page, we can see that Inanna would be in a relationship with the king. So Inanna would typically be married to the king, and on the next page, you can see that the sacred marriage between the ruler and Inanna. Notice that it also says that there were celebrations of the goddess involving transgender and transvestite cultic personnel. So that means they had celebrations, parties with a bunch of people dressing in drag. At the bottom, it also says that Inanna could be viewed as a beautiful goddess of love during the day and a bearded goddess of war at night. So woman by day, man by night. Fertility and war. In the back, we can see the star of Ishtar or Inanna, and in the foreground, you can see the Star of Israel or the Star of David. That's what it's called in our modern society, but it really comes from Ishtar. The right side up triangle represents male, upside down female, and it represents the union of both. Now we can look at a different book called Priest of the Goddess, Gender Transgression in Ancient Religion. So the mother goddess figure is often referred to as a eunuch priest. A eunuch priest is somebody who has had their genitalia castrated. Castrated means cut off. Like everything is chopped off completely. Eunuchs are referenced in the Old Testament several times, and it's something that Noah was righteous from, that he didn't participate in, and like the whole world was doing all that stuff before the flood. It's a large reason for the flood. In the bottom it says these infamous men with their impure, unchaste, polluted bodies were none other than the Gali, the priests of the gods. In the next part, we're going to see what the Gali exactly are. Sex manuals such as the Kama Sutra include instructions for men concerning sexual practices to be performed with third gender persons. And drama manuals such as the blank, which I do not know how to say, place instructions for portraying such persons together with those for performing male and female roles in single chapter on, again, I don't know how to say that word. In this context, clearly genders. So some fulfilled important roles in palace administration. The oldest texts attribute supernatural powers and or religious roles to eunuchs. So basically it's saying important roles in the administration. So that's just like in our government, high-ranking people in Congress and all over, there's just filled with eunuch priests. And they believe that these eunuch priests have superpowers, as it says. So the power from the spirit of Inanna or Ishtar, the mother goddess, that's what they worship. That's what this whole society is about. Okay, so in this part it says that they practice spontaneous self-castration, and they do this in a temple, and they also do this under a pine tree. One famous pine tree I know is the pagan Christmas tree. That happens to be very popular in our Babylonian society, so there's a connection right there. And that's for the Gali. For the Hydra, it says the guru also undergoes castration in a temple, so very similar. So it's just the same thing going on in a bunch of different cultures, but it's all just very similar. So this part says that both penis and testicles are removed by an expert while the initiate chants the name of the mother goddess. The blood is allowed to flow freely in the belief that it drains away the heat that is both the source of maleness and sexual desire. As a result, the initiate is nirvan, like nirvana, reborn, liberated. This is where the band Nirvana gets their name from. They all follow the same belief system. Okay, and at the bottom it says castration does not transform Hydra into women, and they're neither men nor women. So this is what they're saying today in the gender movement. They're third gender. They have pretty much unlimited genders. They're gender X. They have no gender. They're genderless. It goes back to Plato, really, who believed that the soul was genderless. But it's a long story to really get into that. Maybe I'll get into that later in this video or a different video. I'm not really sure. We'll see how it goes. So basically, the author is saying that in both cultures, they both have very similar practices where they perform this castration in a temple and under a pine tree. And at the bottom it says the eunuchs, so we know the eunuchs from the Old Testament, and transgenderism and the cult. So transgenderism is basically saying that this has been going on for thousands, pretty much all of human history. Transgenderism has been around, which is kind of mind-blowing to a lot of people. And this part even says that early Christian fathers found it necessary to pass canon laws, so church laws, against the practice of self-castration. So this was a very large issue at the time, so you can see that this was happening all over. That's why we see the same symbolism all across the world. And the pyramids built by civilizations in every continent, pretty much, even though apparently their technology wasn't good enough to travel or communicate. So what was going on here? They were all practicing the same beliefs. I think this is a good place to end this video. If you guys want to see more videos about the mother goddess or just about ancient things that are still relevant in our society today, biblical stuff, whatever, just let me know and I'll do another video like this. If not, tell me what you want to see. Thank you for watching.